I actually did it. I fucking banned it. Ah! Basically, from the January 22nd onwards, 2 cards will now be banned in Modern, as well as all the ones that were already banned. These are Summer Bloom, which is part of the Amulet Bloom combo deck that aims to cast Summer Bloom with an Amulet of Vigor on the field, shit out a bunch of lands that bounce themselves to then replay them, pay loads of mana, and as you enter the field, they untap themselves, they tap for 2, you get like 8 mana on turn 1, 2 or 3, you throw out a Primeval Titan that spawns some more lands, it just snowballs, it's hard to interact with, it's not impossible to beat, it's actually a very fragile deck, but it has the potential to win on turn 2, and on average it wins on turn 3 or 4, which is complete shit for the Modern format. Which Wizards has said from the start of the Modern format they don't want turn 3 combos, that's why they ban stuff from Storm, it's why they ban stuff from Eggs, as well as being a time waster. But Summer Bloom is now gone, so if you want to play an Amulet deck, you have to play something like Fogs of Maze's End, or you have to play Amulet Bloom, but without Bloom, so it's going to be a lot worse. You're going to have to fairly ramp to your Primeval Titan to get the bullshit rolling. And if you can't tell from the start of the video, which my awesome acting, Splinter Twin is now banned. Now, anybody who's followed Modern... Shut up, cat! Anyone who's followed Modern for quite a bit knows about Splinter Twin decks. Basically, you have a card called Splinter Twin and 2 cards, Deceiver Exarch, Pestamite, maybe Bounding Crassus if you're in green. It makes a copy of something, the copy untaps the original taps, makes a copy, the copy untaps... It goes infinite, it kills people on turn 3, 4, 5, most of the time 4 and 5, because killing people on turn 3 requires you to play something else like Noble Hierarch maybe. And even then it's less like a Talon, but Splinter Twin was an extremely reliable combo for turn 4. And like if you hadn't been able to get the combo on turn 4 or 5, or if they had thought seized you and took the combo, you can then just play like a fair deck, and that's fine. Now, if that doesn't remind you of something else that got banned out, Birthing Pod. Birthing Pod was a combo deck that used a card called Birthing Pod to cycle through the deck to find specific value cards that it could then cycle into more value cards, and some of the value cards fit into an infinite combo. And your main plan was to get the infinite combo, but if they fucked that up, they destroyed your pod, they destroyed your combo stuff, they discarded your hand, you could just carry on playing value cards and play like a normal deck and just beat them anyway. And I think a little bit of that has factored in why Splinter Twin has been banned. Cards like Snapcaster, Lightning Bolt, Vendilion Click are really good at closing out games or controlling the board state until you have a second chance at comboing anyway, so Splinter Twin was a lot more resilient than it made itself out to be, as well as the fact it could play counterspells like Remand, maybe Mana Leak. People don't so much play Mana Leak in it in more recent times. A lot of people started splashing colours like Black for Terminate, Kolaghan's Command for a lot more late game, or even for the mirror match, because they can then terminate the enemy click. Some people went into green for stuff like Tarmogoyf, Huntmaster, a couple of sideboard cards. Again, really strong, it adds to your mid-range plan, you don't even need to combo, you can cut down to like 2 or 3 Splinter Twins, and your opponent still has to play the game as if you're going to win on turn 4. And that adjusts how you think, it adjusts how you play, it adjusts how you mulligan. And the biggest problem with that is it adjusts how you play. It makes you think differently. It makes you... Say you are a player, and on... Your opponent's gone first, and you know that they're playing Splinter Twin. They have sleeves that say Splinter Twin, they have a playmat that says Splinter Twin, they're wearing a shirt that says, I am playing Splinter Twin. And you are on your turn 3, and if you end your turn, it's their turn 4. They can win. They can flash out a Pestamite at the end of your turn, upkeep, untap, upkeep, main phase, play a Splinter Twin and win. You can't stop that from happening if they have those cards in their hand, unless you don't do anything with your turn and you just wait and see. But then if they don't do anything, you haven't done anything either. And that's really, really annoying. Whenever you made a Modern deck before, you had to ask yourself a couple of questions. Can this, survive if somebody Lightning Bolts my stuff? And can it survive if someone Snapcasters that Lightning Bolt? It's the reason why Vampire Nighthawk is an absolutely bad card in Modern, even though the fact that it's a really, really good card. It just dies to a Lightning Bolt, and you spent a turn and 3 mana getting raped by a card at instant speed that Lightning Bolts your thing, and it dies, and you haven't achieved anything. Because they've spent 1 mana and barely any time at all at the end of your turn to waste your entire turn. So cards like Timergoyf became really good, cards like Siege Rhino, because they survive lightning bolts. And then stuff like Snapcaster Mage, he does stuff as well as dies to a lightning bolt, so it doesn't matter if he dies to a lightning bolt. And unless you can outrace the lightning bolts, you have to ask yourself, is this creature worth playing, even though it's going to die to that? And then another question you have to ask yourself when you're building a modern deck is, how does this beat Splinter Twin? Can it kill its creatures? Can it discard its hand? Can it interact with the combo? Does it even die to the combo? A lot of decks die to infinite damage, so there's not much you can do about that. But some, for example, I'm trying to think of the card, but I think it's Ghostly Prism, something like that. If anybody wants to attack you, they have to pay mana, and they don't have enough mana to pay for that with their infinite creatures, but they can still hurt you, they can still get at you, and then you're playing a bad card in a lot of other matchups just to beat Twin. The Twin, most of the time, beat people game 1 if they didn't make a mistake, and then after sideboard they might have about a 50-50 in game 2 and then a 50-50 in game 3. But Twin can also bring in its hate, so then it can hate you down, it can adjust the percentage even more. So this is a really long, nice, glorious explanation of why it banned Amulet Bloom. It basically said, we don't like the deck, it doesn't fit the theme, it doesn't fit what we wanted Mon to be, and we had 2 choices, so we picked this one because of this reason, and I'm actually disappointed they didn't mention like fog-based Maze's End decks that love Amulet of Vigor, because that would have been a really good explanation as well to add on here, like as an extra point. However, the Splinter Twin justification is a lot more statistics-based. They're saying, like, it won this many Pro Tours, it was in the top 8 of this many Pro Tours, and it kept winning this many times with this many copies of this, and that kind of stuff. In the interest of competitive diversity, the same thing they banned Birthing Pod in, they've gotten rid of Splinter Twin. So that means, in the space of about 2-3 years, I think it is, I'm not 100% sure, they banned out 2 of the strongest decks, and before that they banned out Jund by getting rid of Bloodbraid and some other stuff. And that, to me, feels like a bad move. Like, I understand why you've banned it, and I don't completely disagree. It hurts a lot as a guy that basically only played Splinter Twin, and before that only played Pod, and before that only played Jund, and you've specifically banned the only decks I've played and built. But my biggest problem with this, like, it's fine, it's a combo, it does bad stuff, too many people are playing it, get rid of it, that's fair enough. But my biggest problem is I look to myself and I think, why did I build Splinter Twin? Because you banned Pod. Why did I build Pod? Because you banned Jund. Why did I start with Jund? Because it was the best deck, so I followed that, like, train. I just wanted to do the best and win the most, and I didn't want an investment of lots of money to be a waste. But then you banned that. And then I already had a lot of Jund stuff. I had the Verdant Catacombs, I had the Shocklands, I had Thoughtseizers, that kind of stuff. So I transformed that into Birthing Pod. I just had to buy the Pod and the cheap combo stuff. That was easy enough. Then you banned Pod. Then I was straight back to square 0 on chalk on the blackboard. There was nothing there. So why did I build Twin if I had nothing to build it from? I built it because of you, Wizards. You've printed Spellskite in Modern Masters 2. You've printed Splinter Twin itself in Modern Masters 2 that was released not this year because it was 16 days into the year. But you released Modern Masters 2, the most recent modern set to get people into it, and then banned a card from it. That to me seems extremely, extremely of an oversight. It's just a bad idea all around. Vendilion Click was in Modern Masters 2. Pestamite was in Modern Masters 1. Kiki-Jiki was in both of the Modern Masters sets. Cryptic Command was in both of the Modern Masters sets. Lightning Bolt Mana Leak and Electrolyze, I think, was in Modern Masters 1 as well as Modern Masters 2. But some of these cards, like Cryptic Command, Lightning Bolt, Spellskite, even Vendilion Click, aren't necessarily Splinter Twin prints, because they can fit into many decks, like Rug Tempo or whatever. Like a very temporary rug that you want to get rid of out of your house, I don't know. But they're cards that did fit into Splinter Twin, and they dropped the price of the deck a little bit, and then it went back up. Because that's what happens when people build decks. But a lot of these cards seemed tailored to be for either some sort of blue-red, blue-white-red, blue-rug deck. And the most popular one at the time was Splinter Twin or Control. And Control in Modern is basically dead at this point. It's an extremely hard thing to pull off because the mid-range decks have more value in them than the control decks. And the combo decks do kind of roll over and die to the control decks, but not all the time, so it's not even a guaranteed matchup. And then the aggro decks are extremely depressing to play against, because if the only removal you have in hand is like Supreme Verdict and a couple of mana leaks, and they're just chaining out 1-drops and 0-drops on an infect creature and you're dead in no time. Then you printed Serum Visions and F&M promo, which is again not specifically Splinter Twin, but it was part of it. Then Sheevan Reef was like a budget alternative to any of the lands in Splinter Twin, especially if you're just in blue-red. Scalding Tarn was technically reprinted as an expedition. Again, it's not specifically Twin, but all of these cards that you've reprinted are part of Twin, and all of them come together to build a perfectly fine Twin deck. And Kolagan's Command wasn't printed for Twin, obviously, but it just got absorbed into it along with like the black-red X decks, black-green and red, Jund, that kind of stuff. Even Remand was printed in Jason Frasca Dual deck, which is a bit further back, but it's still in like the time frame that I was looking into replacing Birthing Pod, I think. It's a Charm, Steam Vents, Desolate Lighthouse, Snapcaster Mage, and Keranos are all recent standard prints from 2011 onwards. So all of these cards come together to make a perfectly playable, really good Twin list-ish. Because what cards out of that strike you as missing from a Twin deck? There's nothing apart, like the combo creatures, obviously, but Pestamite. Pestamite comes from Modern Masters 1, and then Deceiver Exarch was actually printed in a Commander deck that wasn't too old either. I think it was the 2013 or 2014 one. So you can actually 100% build Splinter Twin from cards from about 2011 onwards. And they're all recent reprints, and they all knock the price down a bit, even though the fact that Splinter Twin's like about a $1,300 deck, but that's about average of the range. When the cheap decks are 600, 600, and the expensive ones are 2,000, it puts it somewhere in the middle. Do you see where I'm coming from, Wizards? Not that you're watching this, and not that anybody is, I don't think. But it just seems like a dick move, especially with Splinter Twin itself. Like, I know you didn't plan to ban it. It just probably happened at some point because you didn't think about how much it'd affect the format. But you printed a card in a set designed to get people into Modern, and then banned that card, and then all the cards that surround it and combo with it, and all the cards that build that deck were also included in recent sets. And then the entire deck is now dead because Twin's dead. Or is it? It might not be. Now, this part is for people that, like me, used to play Twin until that ban announcement was announced. And the good thing for us is that Splinter Twin itself, if we hover over it, is worth currently, like right now, because the ban list has been announced, so this is tanked immediately. Right now it's worth $4.1257, which is actually less than it was when I wrote this notepad file, which is when I was about to start the recording. But when I wrote this, it was $5 to $15, 5 low, 15 mid. So even if we assume worst case scenario, it's on the high end, it's $15. That's $60 for your playset. So out of a deck that's worth $1,300, you've lost $60. So you're now like $1,270 value in all this other stuff that you've got. What are we going to do with it? We've got to build it into something. There's got to be a competitive deck that's viable, that isn't Splinter Twin, that we can make out of the stuff you've already got. Now, we're already in blue-red because we're Twin. That's what you had to be in. So if you stay in blue-red, you get to play Cryptics, Blood Moons, Kiki-Jikis, that kind of stuff. If you go into Grixis, splash a little black, you can have Kolagans, Thoughtseizes, Damnations if you feel like control. Blue-White-Red, Path to Exile, Supreme Verdict for control again. Lightning Helix is again really strong, and then white is the single strongest sideboard colour, I think. And then Rug, add a bit of green to it. This gives you Tarmogoyf, Huntmaster of the Fells, and Domri Rod if you want to build something more casually orientated with that and heavily creature based. But that might be the biggest thing, you never know. Then you have to figure out what deck type you're going to have, because you can have a tempo-y aggro deck. Like if you're in blue-red, you're not going to be able to go full aggro unless you just build Burn, but then you may as well build Burn rather than start with a Twin base. But if you want to go into tempo, start adding stuff like Delvers, Goyfs, that kind of stuff, early drops that impact the board heavily, hopefully don't die to Bolt, because now Bolt is the only question you ask yourself. Or we start asking ourselves, how do we beat Tron? Because at the bottom here I've got notes that I honestly think now, Red-Green Tron, Esper Gifts Tron, just blue-white, like heavy life game based Tron, and then even some sort of... You see all these Eldrazi decks popping up. I'm waiting for Eldrazi Tron that's purely colourless. Tron is going to become huge, because Tron struggled heavily against Twin. Like, Tron didn't have a way to interact with Twin, apart from out of the sideboard when it starts bringing in stuff like Nature's Claim, but even then, that only stops the same stuff that everybody else is stopping in the main board that they've got. Tron had an abysmal matchup versus Twin, and I'm fairly certain Tron didn't have the most fun against Amulet of Vigor decks, because again, it has no interaction. It's got no Thoughtseize, it's got no counterspells, unless you play in the Esper version. So Tron is going to become huge, I think. However, I think Burn and Infect are going to get some serious bonuses as well, because Burn and Infect were both also fairly bad versus Twin, but they're now good versus Tron. So if Tron gets better and Twin is gone, that leaves Rise for these two to go up as well. So I think we're going to see a lot more Tron, we're going to see a lot more Burn, we're going to see a lot more Infect, and then I think in about a year's time, when Tron is the biggest thing and they've just reprinted Karn, the Urza lands, all that kind of stuff in Modern Masters 3, they're going to ban Urza's Tower and leave the other two Urza's lands in Modern, and then that deck's going to die, and then people are going to have to build something else. Or they might ban something like Karn Liberated, because that would hurt the deck a lot too, without fully killing it, but it puts some serious pain on it. Back where we were before. You can work on some sort of mid-range build. I get distracted easily. Shut up, cat! You can work on some sort of mid-range build, where you include stuff like Thoughtseize, Kolaghan's, which is good in control and mid-range, or Huntmaster of the Fells is really good for mid-range, where you just try and outvalue your opponent, use stuff like Vendilion, click to look at their hand and adjust it, or if you have a bad hand, adjust your own hand, draw into some more value. You can actually start playing actual card draw in Twin decks. I don't know what you'd go for. If you went in control, you could run Sphinx's Revelation, and you could go hardcore into that. If you want to go like tempo, you could play Geist of Saint Traft as well. This is stuff I'm just thinking of off the top of my head that I didn't put on the list. However, like I said before and I hinted at, I don't think Twin is dead. I think, well, the name Twin should be dead, but I don't know what you'd call it, like Exarch combo, Deceiver Exarch combo, Twin replacement. But you can still do the exact same combos with Kiki-Jiki, he just costs one more and is a bit more prone to removal, because there's then two things that are relevant to die. Yeah, and there's not that many enchantment decks in Modern, barely any, that are relevant. So the enchantment hate on Splinter Twin is less relevant now, so people won't run as much enchantment hate, so they're going to have more creature hate, which makes Kiki-Jiki even worse. And Kiki-Jiki, if you're playing him, he can combo stuff like Zealous Conscripts and Restoration Angel to give you a backup. So some sort of blue-white-red bell-ringing Zealous Conscripts Restoration Angel, with the only win condition being Kiki-Jiki, but before people only ran like 3 or 4 Splinter Twins anyway, so 3 or 4 Kiki-Jikis is the same chance to draw it. It's just the other combo pieces around it are a bit worse and he's a bit more expensive. But the deck can still be alive, it's just going to struggle a lot more because people don't have to rely on enchantment removal. Although people mostly killed the creature that you were trying to enchant anyway. But people will be more able to kill Kiki-Jiki. They'll be more able to path what you're trying to do and then path Kiki-Jiki as well, or Abrupt Decay both of them. And then if you are running Kiki-Jiki with Pestamite Exarch as your 12 pieces of combo, it's a bit slower, it's a bit clunkier. People aren't going to be scared of the turn 3 Pestamite, turn 4 win that they used to be. And I think that is the biggest weakness now with the new Twin. You're not scaring people. People aren't adjusting to what you're doing. They're not worried that they're going to die out of nowhere. And that's good for the modern format, but it's awful for people who used to play Twin and now are looking at their options and thinking, what am I going to do with this? So you guys tell me here in the comments or on the Reddit comments of the thread that I'm going to post this on, what are you going to do with your Twin deck if you played it? Or if you know people that have Twin decks, what are you going to suggest to them? What do you think they should do with it? Where do you think they can go from here? Because as I see it, we as players have spent $1,300 on a deck, or like I have spent like $500, and then over time everything's gone up in price, which is because Snapcaster used to be like $20 in standard, but now he's really, really expensive for some reason. He needs a reprint in Modern Masters over instead of a twin that you're just going to ban anyway. Why not reprint the Snapcaster there in a rare slot? But that's a rant for another day, maybe. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!